It's finally arrived. Starlink's here. Box has had a bit of a bashing on the way though. Thank you DHL. Hopefully everything's okay. Let's get it open. So, this is what you get in the box. You get a stand, which I don't think we'll end up using long term. You get Dishy, which comes with 75-foot cable already attached, and the plug to go into their Wi-Fi router, which has no Ethernet connections, important to note that, and a power lead. That's it. Power goes from the router over the cable to the dish. There's no separate power for that. Let's get it all set up. Once it's all plugged in, the dish just goes ahead and aligns itself a bit quicker than I expected. And from that point on, it uses a phase shift array to track the satellites. The motors don't do anything once it's done its initial setup. So the Starlink technology is really rather amazing. It uses what are called phase shift arrays. So it has in Dishy hundreds of antennas. By changing the phase on individual antennas, it can do what's called beam forming, and that beam can be aligned with the satellites as they move through the sky, so it doesn't need to move the dish at all. If you don't know anything about phase shift and beam forming, have a look on YouTube. There are a shed load of videos that are really great and explain it in minute detail if that's what you're into. The reason that satellite communications have traditionally been so slow is that the satellites are 22,000 odd kilometers from the surface of the Earth, and so it takes a long time for data to go up to the satellites and back down to the ground stations. Starlink uses satellites in low Earth orbit at around 550 kilometers from the surface. The downside to that is it needs thousands of satellites to cover the globe. So in the real world, just how fast is Starlink? Well, let's take a look. I have to say I've been very impressed. The speeds can be anywhere up to 200 megabits per second. Download speeds are not as impressive. It would be nice if they were a bit higher, but as you can see in a second, it's perfectly acceptable. It just takes a little while to upload a YouTube video, for instance. Running multiple speed tests shows that their speeds are quite variable, but to be honest, in comparison with the 4G speeds I've been getting, they're really rather good. I'm quite enjoying using Starlink at the moment. I should also add at this point that very kindly, the company I work for is paying for Starlink for me. Thank you very much, Email Smart. And if any of you are doing email marketing and you want to generate more revenue from what you're doing and keep your emails out of the spam folder, I'll include a link in the description below. I did try to get Starlink to work inside the boat. I thought that it might just be able to pick up some satellites through the GRP, but unfortunately that wasn't the case. I left it for half an hour and it still hadn't got any signal. So that was a bit of a fail. The only real problem that I've had with Starlink so far has been when I accidentally forgot to put it into stow mode before I moved it. I didn't realise what I'd done, and I didn't realise how much of a problem it would be, but from that point onwards it just kept saying in the app that Dishy wasn't connected, and I couldn't get any further than that. To fix it in the end, I had to do a reset of the router, which involves unplugging and plugging in the power cord about as quickly as you can do it, 3 to 6 times, and that does a factory reset and you start again from scratch basically. I've had the Starlink running from the inverter without any problems, so at least I know that I can do that. What I haven't done so far is taken Starlink out with it hooked up and running while I'm sailing. I've not had the opportunity to do that yet. and obviously I haven't mounted it permanently on the boat anywhere yet either. It's still just sitting up in the cockpit for now. What I've got to do in the new year is to build my own solar arch and mount the 4G antennas and the Starlink up on there, so I'm not going to mess around trying to make some kind of temporary mount situation in the meantime. Obviously I will put together a video of the solar arch build, and I will do another review of Starlink once I've got it mounted up permanently and we've taken it out to sea and given it a bit of a sea trial. So I look forward to seeing you then. Bye bye.